Well, a warm welcome to this talk. Now, I've been looking forward to this for quite a long time now. We're going to be talking to Professor Paul Goddard, who's a well-known doctor and a former professor of radiology, and indeed a pioneering radiologist. He brought in the magnetic resonance imaging facility really to quite a lot of the country. But as we'll see, quite a few other things as well as a radiologist and doctor. Stick around for the interview, lots of fascinating stuff, and I think you'll quite enjoy it. A warm welcome to this talk as always, and a warm welcome to Professor Paul Goddard, who's talking to us today on this coolish, dullish December morning in England, different parts of England, but the same country. Professor, thank you so much for coming on.
Well, it's good to be here, and thank you for inviting me.
Now, you are a professor of radiology.
That's right, yes, indeed.
What is a radiologist and what are their duties?
Well, I was a diagnostic radiologist. You've got diagnostic and therapeutic radiologists. The latter are often called radiotherapists. But I was a diagnostic radiologist, but I worked very closely with the respiratory department and with the oncology department. So I worked with the cancer doctors as well. And it was my role to interpret the x-rays that have been taken, the computed tomography and the ultrasound and such.
Sounds like you'll need very detailed knowledge of anatomy. Presumably you learnt all this dissection skills and things when you were a medical student.
Well, when I was a medical student, we had to do dissection all the time. Not every minute of the day, but every day. And there'd be 6 of us sitting around the body. And then every 2 weeks we were examined in it. We had to pass the test every 2 weeks. I don't think there may be some places they still do that, but most medical schools, they don't now. They've decided that level of knowledge is not necessary.
Well, it's for surgeons and pathologists and radiologists, perhaps, but...
Absolutely. The rest of the people perhaps don't need that level of knowledge, but it was invaluable for me because I went on to do radiology. Of course, you have to qualify fully as a doctor. Then you have to spend some time working through your house jobs and registrar posts and things like that, and then you go on a training scheme, and it's very similar now. Yeah,
fascinating. But that's not the real reason we're here today.
No, but
the real reason we're here today actually is to flog a few books, mate.
That's it.
We want to sell some books. Before we get to this new book,
I've got a copy here as well.
Oh, so you have, yeah. Must be published. I want to talk about this book first of all that you co-wrote with Professor Angus Dalgleish, of course, great friend of the channel, great scientist, great human being, great doctor, great oncologist.
And he'll be coming to me for Christmas as well.
Oh, excellent! Right, excellent.
May see you on the channel then. That would be good.
That would be good. We could have you two sitting side by side if you would deign to talk to me again. But this book here, The Death of Science.
Yes.
This is a bit of a melodramatic title, isn't it? The Death of Science.
Yes, and when you follow the strapline after it, and it says the retreat from reason in the postmodern world, basically you understand what we're talking about. I was a doctor, but I was a scientist, and I saw my entire profession as based in medical science. Way back in the 1980s, I went round the United States having qualified as a radiologist, and I met a doctor called Robert Fraser, and he said, what you've got to do, he said, because I'd already by that time done an MD,
which is the medical equivalent of a PhD, really. It's a research degree.
Yes, it's actually a higher degree than the PhD in Britain.
Because in America, all doctors are MDs, aren't
yes,
they?
That's right. Whereas over here, that's not the case at all.
There's very few doctors are actually MDs in the UK.
I know. But unfortunately, that means if you go to America with your MD, they're not impressed. They
just
don't
hoi polloi,
exactly. But I'd done an MD in computed tomography of the chest way back in the 70s, and it had only just been invented. Yeah, and that led on to my first textbook, which I shall show you a picture of. There it is.
Yep.
Diagnostic Imaging of the Chest, which came out in 1987 and was a bestseller. It did really well. But fascinatingly, we do Airbnb. In our garden, we've got an extra 2 buildings because we built a granny annex. I say granny, but it was for my father, and then he refused to come. But we do Airbnb. And we had a guest the other day who'd trained as a doctor in the late 1980s, and she saw this book of mine, and she did a double take. She said, "That's the book I used," and she was surprised. Anyway, yes, that was diagnostic image of the chest.
Yeah. So you see this as a problem that in the past we seem to be more empirical, evidence-based, which we still claim to be, of course.
Well, of course, we claim to be evidence-based at a time when the exact opposite. We've been taken over by big pharma.
Yeah.
The big pharmaceutical firms have told us what the science is, and so have the governments. They've said follow the science, whilst they were in fact just having parties. And I don't know whether that it does that. Do you remember that?
I do indeed. A place called Downing Street, which for our American viewers is the centre of power in the United Kingdom.
Yes, yes. And anyway, so what happened was that in 2017, I'd been invited to give a plenary lecture, a named lecture called the Long Fox Lecture, to Bristol University and the Bristol Medico-Chirurgical Society. That's the medical society. And that lecture was the history of plagues, 2017. And my last but one slide said, forthcoming pandemic, novel coronavirus. Because I was predicting it. But I wasn't the only person predicting it. There are quite a few people predicting this. And we knew what was going on in China. And we knew that the Americans were working with the Chinese. And we knew that the SARS, the first SARS-1.
So that was 2001 sort of type.
2003.
2003, yeah.
You're very close.
That's right, yeah.
I'll give you a pass for that one. 2003. And this had been kept going in 6 different laboratories, and it had escaped several times, and it had killed people. So it struck me that if they keep playing around with these viruses, they will definitely escape, and there will eventually be one of the viruses that they're playing with will end up with a pandemic.
So this is 2017. You anticipated this 2 years ahead of the pandemic.
Yes, that's right. Actually, my last slide, I suggested that there would be a problem with computer viruses, computer hackers, that would affect healthcare, that we'd have a problem in the future. And I thought that would be further on than the coronavirus. It struck 1 week later.
I remember it well.
1 week later. And it took out a whole lot of the health service. And if it hadn't been for the fact that there was a computer hacker who realized that there was a back door into this and managed to stop it, who knows what would have happened? We don't know, because the problem is that a lot of the machinery that's used, for instance, MRI, computed tomography, ultrasound, and other things like that, they have embedded in them slave computers that use old software. Their operating systems are they're ripe for hacking, but that happened before the coronavirus, and I thought it would be the other way around. So yes, one can predict a future, but it's never going to be exactly the future you predict.
Can't resist asking you,
yes.
What's in store for the next few years? Is there anything you're particularly concerned about?
Well, I was asked that at a meeting in Sheffield, which they said we're going to ask you to apologise for saying that the virus was made in the laboratory, otherwise we won't let you speak. So I said, yes, I will apologise. I certainly will. And they said, what? And then they went on at me. I said, no, I will apologise for saying that. So I got up and I said, I've been asked to apologise for saying that that the virus was made in China. in the laboratory by the Americans with the Chinese. And I'm going to apologize. I am very sorry that the virus was made in the laboratory in China by the Americans with the Chinese. I'm very sorry.
Indeed. I mean,
it wasn't the apology that they actually wanted.
I mean, as far as I know, people are still working on viruses that could be as transmissible or way more transmissible than Omicron variant, for example. And
there's absolutely no doubt they're doing that.
As deadly as some hemorrhagic fever virus or something.
Exactly, yes. Well, the last question that I was asked was, okay, if you predicted this virus, as you say you did, what do you predict now? Which is what you've just asked me. And I said, well, there are several viruses that are still being adapted in the laboratories. I actually think the biggest threat is the gain of function studies. I actually think that these studies are ridiculous. When you speak to doctors and you say they are taking viruses and they are making them infective in human beings,
yes,
doctors say, no, they wouldn't do that. That's too incredibly stupid.
Yeah.
That is exactly what they're doing. That really is exactly what they're doing.
Yeah.
And they call it gain of function studies, or now they've actually got rid of that term and they've got another. They redefine it to say, no, we're not doing gain of function studies. No, we know that's banned. Oh, we're just looking at them to find out what sort of vaccines we need. Well, Pfizer have still been making new versions of COVID. That is known. Right, so Pfizer have been doing that. In biowarfare laboratories around the world, it's banned, of course, but in biowarfare laboratories around the world, they're still playing around with smallpox. Smallpox escaped from a Soviet laboratory back in 1971. I think it was called the Aral Sea incident, and quite a few people died, and it was brought under control. But so smallpox, if I was asked to create a biowarfare weapon, whatever, which I'm not going to be, and I would say the one I'm worried about is smallpox. Right, and people will say, yes, but we can vaccinate people. Yes, you can, but it's not perfect. The last person who died from smallpox died in Birmingham, and she was a photographer working in the laboratory above a biosafety level 4 laboratory, and she caught the smallpox and she died from it. In fact, the death rate from this one infection was 300% because her father came to see her in hospital. She was so ill that it shocked him. He had a cardiac arrest and died. The mother caught the smallpox but recovered. The man in charge of the laboratory committed suicide. So 300% mortality from the one in original infection. But so...
I'm sure we could have smallpox that was jiggled around with a bit as well, maybe put in a furin cleavage site or something onto that.
Well, this is what I think monkeypox is. You see,
Interesting.
I don't think monkeypox. I mean, suddenly we had an outbreak of monkeypox, right? But there's another one that there's already an outbreak of, which is bird flu, H5N1 bird flu. H5N1 bird flu. That was made pathogenic to mammals so that mammals could catch it from one mammal to another back in 2012 in the Netherlands using gain of function studies, using money from Anthony Fauci from America. And that was really the first successful gain of function piece of research. And now we've got an outbreak of H5N1, which the mammals are catching, and it's got exactly the same footprint and symptomatology as the one that was put through the ferrets in the Netherlands. So what do? They take this virus and they put it through animals that wouldn't normally catch it, and they keep doing this until they do catch it, but they do it in the presence of other viruses.
It's like an accelerated evolution, isn't it? With a bit of
It is.
sexual
That's why
reproduction of
people say,
viruses
"Oh no,
thrown
it's
in.
just evolution." But they actually also mutate them purposely in the laboratory. They play around with them, add things, and the COVID has got extra furin cleavage site. It's got extra high charge on it. It's positively charged. It was passed through the humanized mice.
Yes.
And they, in the presence of a number of different viruses, which were stolen by Chinese virologists from Winnipeg. And the Chinese virologists who stole these viruses from Winnipeg, it was a female virologist and her husband. They were deported when it was discovered that they'd done this. They should have been in jail for 30 years. I mean, deporting them, it's just not good enough, is it? Because when they got back to China, they were lauded for their great success.
Well, it could have been diplomatically inconvenient, I would have thought.
Well, I think that's it. I mean, we're always looking at the diplomacy side, which is why, despite the fact that we know what they were doing when the virus escaped, the COVID, still they tell us we don't really know. We know exactly what they were doing.
We do.
I mean, are you aware? I'm sure you are, because you've been reading our books, but you know that they were actually testing the vaccine.
I've heard accounts that claim that, yeah, for sure.
Yes, well, what they were doing is they'd already made 2 vaccines by the autumn of 2019. They had them patented by the February of 2020, and some 3 months later, the man who had the patent, of course Chinese, he was dead, mysteriously dead, nobody knows why.
Yeah.
So we've got this situation that they've got these vaccines already by the autumn, and what are they doing? They vaccinate their political prisoners, and then they challenge them with the virus. And the vaccines are not perfect, so some of the prisoners catch the virus, and so do some of the investigators. And so the investigators are sent down to the main hospital. The people are told down there, keep quiet about it. And they do keep quiet about it. That's the top doctors keep quiet about the fact that there's this outbreak. They say, we'll deal with this. They sterilize the labs. There were 4 labs, by the way, not just the one, 4 laboratories. They sterilize the labs, but it doesn't stop it because it's already out. Mm-hmm. And so that's the beginning of that. So that was really a wake-up call to me. I'd written a book back in 2008, this one, the history of medicine, money and politics, in which I talked about the way that we no longer live in the liberal democracy. And I talked about the NHS, what it was doing and how it was taken over by management instead of being run by medical science, people who knew what they're doing. It was managers who don't know what they're doing. Well, they know that they're doing the managerial process. The managerial process, of course, is a myth. And the managerial process says you should delegate tasks and you shouldn't do them yourself. Well, in reality, if you're a doctor, it's best if the doctor does the tasks that doctors are best at. And it's not best if he delegates stuff. And these myths have come into the NHS, but now they're around us also. Hence the death of science. We're no longer looking at science in the way we used to. We're being told what science should be rather than being allowed to express our opinions. We're not allowed to have the dissent and discussion. And there are now 30 arrests per day by the police of people for putting things out on the media, which are deemed to be annoying to people.
I think the figure in my head is that in Russia there's about 400 arrests a year for social media posts. In the UK, I think it's around about 12,000 a year for social
Well,
media posts. It's I might be slightly wrong on that figure, but it's certainly well into the thousands.
no, the figure is something about that, that sort of thing.
And yet,
but it
so
just
400,
shows you
400 in Russia versus many thousands in the UK. What the heck?
what has happened.
Yeah.
What has happened, and they're saying we have to get away and do away with jury service. Why?
Yeah.
Because we've got
right
too many
adored
cases.
by the British people since Magna Carta.
Yes, there's too many cases. Why are there too many cases? Oh, well, because we're arresting 30 people a day plus for things which aren't crimes.
Yeah.
And don't forget, that's the ones they arrest. What about the ones that they decide as non-crime hate incidents?
Yeah. No, I completely agree. Rather than getting away from talking about jury service, what is the cause of these backlogs? Why is there more crime? Why is there more people going to court? Why have we gone on to a lawfare type society? Why have we got segments of the population that are committing more crimes? These are the more fundamental questions we should be asking. Getting back to the fundamental axioms of the problem.
Well, what about all this business of people being stabbed, and people are being stabbed to death all the time? Right. That when I was a child, that was rare.
Yeah.
It did happen, but it was rare. And at that time, the police would stop people and check whether they had knives on them. And there was an outcry about this sometime, I don't know, it was the 80s, because they said this is unfair.
Stop and search, yeah.
This stop and search is unfair. Well, the stop and search actually stopped people from carrying knives. Yeah. And I
would consider it unfair if someone stuck a piece of metal into my tissues, to be quite honest.
Well, you see, the point about it is this, that if when you say things are unfair, it's always you're saying this person should be able to get away with being dangerous. Yeah. It strikes me that what you're saying is that we don't really care about human rights. We just... about
human rights.
Talk about it. When the lockdown came, which, by the way, would not have saved lives, I'd just point out that the lockdowns, if they had quarantined China as soon as they knew, they could have stopped some of the people from dying. They could have stopped. I mean, quarantining does work. Lockdowns don't. Lockdown had never been proven to work. It didn't work in China. What they did in China was they quarantined Wuhan.
Yes.
They didn't lock it down. They quarantined it.
Yes.
They didn't allow the people out into the rest of China.
Put a fence around it.
Yeah, but they allowed them to fly out to the rest of the world. Very strange.
Yeah. Anyway, other examples in this book from Death of Science. We've got examples from virology, malpractice in science, social interventions.
What I'd like to emphasise about the Death of Science is it wasn't only written by Angus and myself. There are a huge number of other contributors. Dr. Nabil. Oh yes, there you got the list.
Yeah.
Nabil Jarrad, David Nutt, Jeremy Goddard, Martin Goddard. They're my sons, and they have a lot of expertise. They help me with the philosophy, for example. Rosamund Jones, Claire Craig, Chandra Ramazingi, and they've all got a lot to offer.
Of course, and we've had Gus Dalgleish, we've had Ros Jones, we've had Claire Craig on the channel.
You want to try and get Richard Dearlove? He might come on. He wrote the last chapter for this one. Richard Dearlove, if people don't know his name,
tell us. Yeah.
Well, Sir Richard Dearlove was head of MI6, and we had MI6 on our side. We have MI5 against us, and for a long time, I couldn't work out. Why MI5? When we're given this information about how the virus had been made, how could anybody not believe it? I mean, why were they saying, "Oh, we don't know"? No, it wasn't.
And we have people like yourself and Professor Dalgleish. You know, basically, we're talking about 100 years of medical experience between the two of you, and yet your opinions are just completely ignored.
And we weren't allowed on the committees, nor were practicing doctors at all. and nor on the Hallett report.
Oh, don't even start me on that one. We've spent nearly £300 million on that already. About 190 million for the inquiry, and about another 100 million answering inquiries. Some of whom some inquiries were from outraged members of the public. But that would be a separate topic,
because we've put stuff to the report, none of which is reported, and they weren't allowing questions.
I could tell you some stories.
They didn't allow questions. Let's put it this way. I'll just twist it round. If I, as a doctor, and if you, as a medical scientist, a PhD nurse, if you and Gus, if we were asked as a triumvirate, right, if we were asked to do an inquiry into the law, I'm afraid we would be SH1T, wouldn't we?
I wouldn't know where to start.
Exactly.
Yeah. And yet we have lawyers doing an inquiry into medicine.
What? Without any doctors on the panel. And doctors are not allowed to ask the questions they want to ask.
I know. But if we compare that to some of the congressional hearings in the States, which have been excellent.
They have been superb.
Yes, and probably about a tenth or a hundredth of the cost as well.
Yes, and they did include doctors.
They did indeed.
They included scientists.
Sorry, and victims.
Yes, of course. They really went into some considerable detail. They got it right. They got it. They did it quickly. And it's not dragged on. They've just produced the answer, and they got the answer right. Just going to have a sip of water.
Do. Right, score so far, United States 1, United Kingdom 0.
Well, I think minus something for the United Kingdom because of the huge cost, because here we are, short of money, they say. I've just realised, of course, they only say that we're short of cash in order that they can raise the taxes. Isn't that right?
So it's transpired about political lies over the past few weeks.
Yes, in the past, if a minister was, or just an MP was found to lie to Parliament, lie to the public, lie to the press, they had to resign.
Mm. Rightly so.
Of course. What has happened to our country?
It's degraded and degenerated out of any possible recognition of the country of our youth.
Anyway, we go up on about that, don't we, in here, in this book. And you very kindly have written the foreword.
Yeah. I found it difficult, but I basically read a few chapters. Well, I read nearly all the book, then sort of started writing it, and it actually. It's only a few pages, but it actually took me about a week to write this because I wanted to kind of get it.
You did write a very nice foreword, and there were some interesting things in this book, even in the appendices. One of the appendices I enjoy is the briefing sent by Sir Richard Diller, which he opened that out, although it says secret documents. Receipts.
What page is that on, Paul, for those who already have the book?
What page? That's 303.
Yeah. So this is from the head of MI6.
Yes, and he said it is now beyond reasonable doubt that COVID was engineered in Wuhan. It was completely ignored. So why? Why did they do that? And why did they send me off down this channel of writing books about the death of science? And the first of them that I wrote is actually called Pandemic. Because I was halfway through writing my book on plagues when the pandemic struck. So I thought I'd better finish it. I think I've got a copy. Let's see.
We must do a separate video on plagues because it's a topic I find absolutely fascinating.
Well, yes. This was the second edition.
Oh, right. I haven't got that one. Right, okay. Right,
haven't you? No, I'll send you a copy of that one.
I'll get it. Thank you, yeah. No, we'll have to do a separate video on that because
yes, we will.
That's been so instrumental in shaping the whole history of humanity.
Well, yeah, there's no doubt about that, and that's what I go on about in this book because it is so fascinating. But let's go back to Profiteering. it sounds as if it's all about COVID. It's not. There's a lot
Not
in
by
there
any
about,
means. Yeah.
by climate. There's a lot of stuff about climate change.
So, I mean, and just to go back a bit, Paul, this book, the reason for this book was the abdication and the retreat from reason.
Yes,
In the international modern
that's right.
mindset, that the zeitgeist has changed. The whole philosophy, the whole epistemology of civilization, in a sense, has changed from being rational to being irrational. Now, in the past, things could have been unpleasant and evil, and many things were, but there was a kind of rationality to it. Now, we're almost in a sort of almost a sort of schizoid thought disorder kind of world. That was the fundamental philosophy behind Death of Science, and
That's right.
the point is well made. What is the fundamental philosophy behind Profiting from Doom?
Well, what started me off on that was people said, "How do you know all this?" Because they would. I mean, although there were all these contributors, I was the main editor with Angus, and there were some chapters, of course, which we wrote on our own, and I said, well, a lot of it on Angus's part, he's been following the biochemistry, etc. But I've been following the money. And then I began to realize that there are people just following the money who purposely doom us. Well, I realized that there are a lot of people who are so immoral or maybe amoral that they don't care if they're dooming everybody. One would have thought they would care, because otherwise they're actually also dooming themselves and their old and their relatives and their offspring and such. And but they don't. They really just want power and money, power hungry. And as I realised that, I realised there were so many examples of this that it is one of the reasons that we've got the death of science, but it goes beyond that. It's affecting the whole of society.
And the way that science is manipulated for individual ends. I appreciated that you've actually put part of my foreword on the back here, Paul.
Yes.
As ordinary men and women, we might find it hard to understand how some can so willingly abandon any ethical life in order to acquire wealth and power.
Yes, and that's what the book is about.
And yet they do.
Yeah, I know. And you just don't think they would. But when you see people on television, and there's the person who is in charge, is the CEO of a big company that provides care for vulnerable people, and somebody has died because of a lack of care, and they say, yes, it's disgusting, we're completely with you there, the person will be sacked. And you realise that the person who didn't provide the care that should have done had fallen asleep. And then you realise that the reason they were so tired is they were doing 2 or 3 jobs because the wages they were getting were so low. And that the person who's saying, well, yes, they'll be sacked, it's appalling, I'm utterly disgusted. They're getting over $1 million a year, right? And you realise that, and when that's told them, they say, well, that's normal for the sector. Well, it shouldn't be.
Correct. Yeah.
I mean, why should the CEOs of water companies that have totally failed get millions? Why?
Yeah. But we so often fail to ask these
people.
Fundamental questions, don't we? It's not. We tend to mess around with the detail, but what you might call the absolute childlike questions.
Yes, that's right. It's such simple questions.
Are simply not asked.
The thing about the water companies that really gets me is that it's quite clear to me that any doctor or any nurse could run a water company. Why? Because the water companies have customers who cannot choose anybody else.
Yeah.
Right.
You can't say, no, I'm going to give up drinking and washing, can you?
No. And you can't. And there's only one source of your water. Yeah. So the water company boss, if it was a doctor or a nurse. They would make sure that the water was clean.
Yes.
Because that's what we're trained in.
I could manage that. I realise the importance of that. Yeah.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Where did that knowledge come from?
Just smarter than I look, I guess.
So, and yet they don't seem to get it.
No.
We don't need these people. It's not that we don't need them having huge sums of money. We don't need them at all. That's the amazing thing. The same is true in the NHS. We've got chief executives in the NHS who keep giving themselves larger salaries each year and earn vast sums. We don't need them. We never needed them.
When I started in the psychiatric hospital in 1975, we had actually we'd just changed, but a couple of years before that, there was the chief medical officer and the chief male nurse and the matron.
That's right.
When I started, we'd started this process of salmonisation. Do you remember that?
Oh, I do. That, to me, was the beginning of the end.
That was the beginning of the end, absolutely.
And they brought in BSc for nursing. They brought in nursing officers.
That was much later on. But yeah, we had nursing officers and senior nursing officers and all sorts.
Yes, and there's all these
type meetings and all sorts of things that no one understood.
Absolutely unnecessary.
Yeah.
And it was... Well, I think the NHS was working amazingly well up until then.
Yes, that's my impression. Yeah.
But the NHS has always worked on goodwill. It's relied on the goodwill of the staff.
Still does to a large
extent. Yes,
it
has. It's always relied on the goodwill of the staff, and it's always made the people work many longer hours than they're actually being paid for.
Done that a few times. I'm sure you have as well.
Well, many times. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's get back to doom.
Yeah.
So. There are many different sorts of doom in this book, even the religious doom. We talk about religious doom, but one that people believe that we are being doomed with climate change. And unfortunately, that may be one of the things that's pushing to the death of science, because if people are constantly told, you're all doomed, there's no way that the world's ruined, you get the Greta Thunberg reply, you've ruined my world. And then you get people saying, well, if it's ruined, I may as well do what I like. So
eat, drink and be merry, for tomorrow we die.
Yeah. Let me start off by saying the world is not doomed.
It is not doomed.
No. But people do doom other people. They profiteer, right?
Yes.
And with regards to climate change, it is vital that we stop polluting. It's vital that we do good farming practice.
Correct.
And it's vital we don't cut down the rainforest.
Correct.
But the CO2 story is only one small part of the story. I point out in that chapter that climate is controlled by a system which is chaotic. Right?
Yes, the weather is a chaotic system, so it has so many molecules bumping into so many other molecules.
That's right.
What we might call the butterfly flapping its wings.
That's right.
And in England causes a thunderstorm in Brazil or something, because there's so many interactions, it's impossible to predict them. And even then, and whereas quantum effects, there's an intrinsic unpredictability in the system.
That's right. And so when it comes to climate change, it is feasible, it is possible that, just as the climatologists have told us, that raising the CO2 level will cause a proportionately increased level of temperature. The heat will go up. That is entirely possible, but it's highly unlikely. And the reason it's highly unlikely is that CO2 is not even the most important greenhouse gas. The most important greenhouse gas is water vapor. But there's many other things that have an effect. Let's forget the greenhouse gases just for a second. What about volcanoes? What about sunspots? What about huge cycles that affect us as we go around the cosmos? There are so many different things. one thing I like to focus on is this business of cutting down trees. And I tell you why I like to focus on that was that when I was a medical student in 1974, so we're talking 51 years ago, I went over to a mission hospital and worked in a mission hospital for 3 months. And at one point we were taken, myself and another medical student, we were taken up to the edge of the Sahara by an agricultural missionary. And he pointed out that the reason that the Sahara had increased and was still increasing in some areas was because of people cutting down trees. He said, we got these goats, the nomads have the goats, they cut down the trees because when they come back, there'll be little shoots the goats will be able to eat. Keep doing that for a few years and you have no trees. Then keep eating up the vegetation. There's no vegetation and you end up with the desert. Well, since then, I've kept my eye on any reports about trees and climate, and they've been very few until recently. And people now, most of the time, if you say trees are very important, they say, oh, yes, they're a very important carbon sink. I'm not slightest interested in that. I think that's the least important thing about trees. Trees, first of all, don't forget they're living. There's these giant living things which act as air conditioners for the whole planet.
They do.
And in the middle of a continent, the only place you get rain from is trees. On the edge of the continent, and we of course live on an island, so it works the way that we were told in geography. The water, the wind comes off the sea, and then it rises up over the mountains, and it drops its rain. What happens once it's dropped its rain, and the wind is moving over a bit of a continent? Well, you get more rain. How? Well, because of transpiration from the trees, but there's more to it even than that. The trees put out organic particles which float up into the atmosphere where they seed the clouds. And you don't get thunderstorms unless there are cosmic rays ionizing those particles. And most people have no idea about that, and they've never even thought about cosmic rays having any effect on the world. They do. And it is known full well that the potential difference between clouds without an ionized track is not sufficient to create a thunderstorm. So
what's happening is you've got these biological particles from the trees that go up into the higher atmosphere.
Yes.
They're then hit by the solar radiation from the sun.
Solar radiation, cosmic rays from the rest of the universe.
And that puts a charge, a negative or a positive charge on these biological particles. And it's that which attracts the water and starts the formation of water with water droplets.
Absolutely on it.
With electromagnetic attraction.
And that's it. And electrostatic. So
electrostatic, that's the word I was looking for.
But I mean, that's the same thing, isn't it? Really, basically. But that is so poorly understood. But think, all of those things. It's a chaotic system.
Yes.
Well, here we are. Our hypocritical leaders, right? They call themselves leaders. I like to put a B in front of that.
Usurpers.
Usurpers, yes. They fly over to Brazil in their personal jets.
Probably not economy class either.
Surprisingly not. And they go along roads built solely so they can have a huge conference about how to save the world.
Yep.
Something's wrong there.
There was a great article in the Telegraph recently about a £50 million road that the British overseas aid built that doesn't go anywhere.
Yes, that's the sort of thing that happens. There's one other chapter I'd like to talk about today, if I may.
Maybe just say one more thing about the climate thing before we go on.
Yes.
The British government has recently instigated a department for something like it. I don't know remember the exact name. I've done videos on it. High risk experimentation.
That's right.
And part of that is we believe that they are spreading particles in the stratosphere they claim as an experiment, but it's a pretty big scale experiment because I think they're spending about £50 million on it. That's actually going to deflect solar radiation away from the surface of the Earth.
And here's the interesting thing.
Absolute madness as far as I can see.
This is total madness.
Yeah.
Who are they trying to save?
Well, apart from anything else, if you reduce the amount of incident solar radiation, you're actually going to reduce the amount of photosynthesis.
And you will have less food, you'll have
less
will
food,
die.
You'll have less organic material, and you'll have more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. And less oxygen, which I kind of like to breathe in. Thank you very much, British government.
And here's another thing. If Britain warmed up a little bit, which I don't think it actually has, and I don't think the sea level has increased. Look, sea level.
Go on.
I've been going up to the Isle of Skye for 50 years, and we have a cottage up there which is in trust to the whole family, and it's right on the edge of the sea. And the sea comes up to exactly the same level it's always come up to for 50 years.
Yes, but there is isostatic readjustment in Scotland.
There is.
So there's a rebound from the previous ice age because the ice weighed Scotland down. It's now bouncing back up again.
That is absolutely true.
So could that just be compensating for increasing sea level rise?
It might. What I'm pointing out is that there are factors other than just the simple, look, the sea is going to rise and it's going to flood Holland and it's going to flood New York.
Yeah.
Well, that was predicted, 30 years ago, and it hasn't happened. Yeah. I just point out that there are many other factors involved. Tuvalu, for example, are trying to sue for climate change loss of land, but there have been reports that there's more land there than there ever was.
Harlech, have you been to Harlech Castle in Wales?
I have.
It used to be by the sea.
Yes,
and now it's about a mile and a half from the sea now, I think.
Yes, that's absolutely true. So there are many factors. This is why I say these things are affected by chaos, chaos mathematics.
And I would also like to mention methane.
Yes,
CFCs, chlorofluorocarbons from aerosols, man-made, and the one that a lot of people don't think about is the excess amounts of nitrates that are put onto the soil.
I think that's dreadful.
Because you put on huge amounts of NPK fertilizer.
On the other hand,
and some of that nitrogen is converted into laughing gas.
On the other hand,
nitric oxide, which is a very strong greenhouse gas.
Yes, that's true. On the other hand, without the fertilizers, would we have enough food to feed people? And
if we all had compost heaps in our back garden.
Well, this is one of the things that I say. One of the things that I say is that we should all be having allotments, and the idea of rewilding our farmland doesn't work, because when they rewild 1 acre in Britain, another acre will be opened up in a rainforest in order to feed us and then transport the food across the world. Instead of rewilding, why not get people to do and really encourage people to have allotments and grow their own food? And there's another good thing about that, which is that the allotments are said to be the very best place for pollinators. They're better than farms, they're better than gardens, because they have such a variety of interesting stuff in them, allotments, and so they're said to be the best place for pollinators. So rather than rewilding, let's have more allotments, not fewer.
Mine has helped me maintain my mental health, such as it is, over the past 25 years.
Yes.
For viewers in the States, allotments are just small pieces of land that you can rent off the council for a very small amount of money. I think I pay about £26 a year for mine.
Oh, well, that's cheaper than ours.
You grow food on it, it's
and you enjoy being on it.
Oh, it can be a lifesaver.
Exactly, it can. It's really good for the health. So,
Yep. So basically, I think what you're saying, Paul, is one of the reasons that you wanted to do the book. One of many was the your uncomfortable predisposition to the current climate narrative that is dictated to us by certain media outlets in the United Kingdom.
You've got that completely true. You're right there, and it is so difficult when you night after night, when you watch the television, you find that they're producing things you just know are not true.
Well, I've found out how you manage that. I've cancelled my television license, so it's now illegal. It's now illegal for me to watch live TV or iPlayer in the United Kingdom. So problem solved.
That's a very good one.
Oh, I wouldn't break the law. No.
Housing scandals and toxic mould.
Oh, toxic mould. Yeah, I know nothing about this one. I've been looking forward to this. Can you start us off from scratch? Because I really know nothing.
Well, let's start off from scratch.
Yeah.
Over the last few years, it's become clear that a lot of properties have mould in them and that this is toxic mould.
Yeah.
This was not something that was really well known when I was at medical school. And of course, it actually did give me a chance to write quite a few papers. When there's something that people don't know about and that you get interested in, you can write papers. And
the only one I remember is farmer's lung.
Yes,
I think I saw one patient once with farmer's lung, and that was probably about it.
Yes, well, there are plenty of others. But one of the ones you will have heard of is aspergillosis.
Heard of it, don't know anything about it.
But what a lot of people don't know is that there's several different sorts of aspergillosis. There's invasive aspergillosis, which is just, it's like a very nasty infection, and it causes cavitation as such.
In the lungs or where?
Yes, in the lungs. Gets right into the lungs, and it invades and creates holes in the lungs.
That's not good.
Well, it kills people.
Like emphysema.
Yes. And there is bronchopulmonary aspergillosis, which is that is an allergic response, and people with asthma tend to get it, and it can kill people because it's such a nasty allergic response. And then there is...
So it's triggering autoimmunity, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, a lot of problems with diseases are a triggering of our immune system and cytokine storms and destruction of ourselves by our own defences.
Yes. I think Jordan Peterson's got something like this at the moment.
Has he? Yes.
Some sort of mould lung disease. I'm not quite sure of the details.
I mean, the last one that I like to mention about aspergillosis is something called a mycetoma. If you've already got a hole in your lung from emphysema, you might actually get a fungus growing in that hole.
Yeah. I mean, it worked out there ends in toma, so it's a lump.
Yes, you're right. It's a lump, but it's an interesting lump because it's a lump which is a lump within a hole, and it often has a cavity within it. But that's just one of the organisms that might be in the toxic mold. There's thousands of organisms, and it's only in the last few years, as they've been cleverer and cleverer looking at the DNA, that they began to analyse these and discover that they are there.
So do you think there's someone? Do you think this is generating disease pathology in the population that's being unrecognised by doctors?
Oh yes, it's just not. There's so many different things that it can do. It ranging from heart trouble to psychiatric problems and things. You think, how can it cause those? Well, apart from just living in nasty conditions, can do that anyway. In addition. Fungi, as we all know, can have psychomimetic effects. I'm talking about psychiatric effects. They can actually cause people to go nutty, to have hallucinations. We know that because we've all heard of magic mushrooms. You can actually end up with magic mushrooms effectively growing on your walls without you knowing it.
Well, David Nutt, who we both know, has been licensed, is the leading researcher in the world on this, really, I think.
David Nutt is an amazing guy. I've known him for some years, quite a few years actually, and
some great effects in depression, anxiety, PTSD, anorexia nervosa.
You see, this is another example of science being ruined because the governments come down and say a war on drugs. You're not allowed to use psychomimetic drugs, you're not allowed to use LSD, you're not allowed to use magic mushrooms. They say all this thing, and suddenly they stopped research, which was very successful. Well, but the mold, the trouble is you've got tenants living in, might be very nice properties, they might not be, but they might be, But if they've got mold, the people are very, they can be very unhealthy. And we've got all these housing associations with chief executive officers taking massive salaries, doing nothing, and it's the same story again.
Well, since we planned out this, we sketched out this talk yesterday, I've heard a rumour, Paul, that you make guitars, but as you know, on this channel, we demand empirical evidence for everything.
Yes, that's right. We need evidence.
If you're going to make claims like this, I'm afraid we need the evidence.
Oh, okay. Well, I will show you the other sec. This is the Blue Peter bit when they saying, and I'll show you one that I made earlier.
Yeah.
There it is.
You're short of strings, Pauls.
Look at that.
I got a few tins. Right, good.
Tins on the other side. That's one.
Right.
Yes, these are slide guitars. I'll show you another, and I shall play it for you if you like.
Oh yeah.
So I know I've disappeared, but that's.
So you've taught yourself to play a guitar with 3 strings.
Well, the idea is that this is another one I made.
Yep. Also with 3 strings.
Also with 3 strings.
Yep.
I've made them with 1 string, 2 string, 3 strings, 4 strings, 5 strings, and 6 strings. I've made all different sorts. But
it's nice to have variety in life, isn't it?
Well, yeah, and I shall play you. And
Please
this
do.
is. See if you can hear this.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. It's a blues guitar, you see.
But bottleneck style, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it is, yes.
Mm.
Have you seen my little red rooster, too lazy to crow today? Have you seen my little red rooster, too lazy to crow today? Got all the hens in the farmyard, upset in every way.
I feel like I'm in Mississippi, sitting by the river.
Yes. Well, they used to make their own, you see.
Yeah.
And I've got one more instrument.
Yeah, go for it.
Because we are coming up to Christmas.
We are indeed.
And we're already in the season of Advent.
We're coming up to Christmas, not the winter holiday.
We are coming up to Christmas.
It's Christmas, yes.
And tomorrow I'll be singing carols and Christmas songs on the green where I live.
Pleased to hear it. Did you make that one as well?
No, I didn't. But I bought it on eBay. And very cheaply. It's amazing how you can buy these things. Nice instruments. I bought a harpsichord on.
I think it's great that you're doing that on the public green as well. Not only remembering the birth of Christ, but celebrating British traditions that we've
all
done
together.
For a couple of thousand years in this country now, nearly.
Well, we won't get a couple of thousand people, even though it is a couple of thousand years. We
would if you video it and we put it on the videos.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I'll probably will do some of that, and I'll let you know. Yeah.
Have you got one more instrument, or is that it?
I think that's it today.
Yeah.
I can bring different instruments next time.
We'll have a piano recital next time.
Well, yeah, that of course is in a different room, but piano is my initial. That's what I started off doing, piano.
Yeah,
and I play classical and I play a lot of blues and jazz, and I have a moniker and also known as Dr. Jazz.
So I believe, yeah.
Yes.
So, Dr. Jazz, Professor Goddard, thank you so much for coming on today.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
Do come back, because we do have more questions.
Yes, we will come back.